Welcome back to Mental Wellness Evolution. I'm Jeff, and thanks for being here. Today we're talking about policing your self-talk, okay? So dealing with our own inner critic and our own self-talk is absolutely paramount, guys. We need to learn how to deal with the voice that's going on inside of our heads. Now, first and foremost, we can start to recognize if we start to take a step back and ask ourselves, who is this voice and where did this actually come from? Because a lot of this negative self-talk that we have about ourselves literally gets traced back to an origin or somebody, an individual. Maybe you had a really, challenging parents to deal with, or religion you grew up in, or it was maybe a teacher or a coach or somebody along the way that put these ideas of doubt and these old subconscious programmings into your head, and then they've been kind of dictating and governing what's going on kind of inside of your mind as far as what we call that inner critic goes. Okay, when we start learning to police this aspect of ourselves, it's going to go a long way to helping us to develop more kindness, care, and compassion towards ourselves, because the tendency of this inner critic is to kick us, to beat us down into the dirt when we're already down in the dumps, when we're already feeling down. This is the voice that piles on with that shame that you're not good enough, you're worthless, you're stupid, you're dumb, you're all of these types of things, okay? But when we start policing this is when things are going to start to change, guys, because we need to understand how paramount it is to not accept talk from ourselves that we would not put up with from somebody else. And so many people will actually do this. They won't accept talking for somebody, like, disrespecting them or talking down to them or giving them grief about things or anything like that outside of themselves. But as soon as they go inside their own heads, they'll just literally allow themselves to beat themselves down into the dirt, okay? So learn to police your self-talk. Do not accept things inside of yourself, in your own mind about yourself, that you would not accept somebody else saying to you. If it's unacceptable for them to say to you, why in the world would you accept saying it to yourself, okay? This is something we need to get really good, vigilant at, and work on every single day, because we want to flip that internal script. If it's a very negative driven internal script, it's very challenging to operate on a day-to-day basis with this negativity going on inside of ourselves. We need to learn to be our own biggest fan, to cheer ourselves up, to constantly be there, because you know what? We all have friends and people in the world that we rely on, but not everybody's going to be there all the time, guys. We need to learn to become our own biggest fan and be the one that's there cheering ourselves on, even in spite of what's going on outside of us. Even if we've had a bad day or we made a mistake or we screwed something up, that's not the time for us to pile onto ourselves. Another great tip is to just treat yourself like somebody you've been tasked with helping. Like, if you come to yourself with something that's really challenging, or you're going through something, say imagine one of your friends came to you with the same circumstances, the same challenges, what would you say to them? How would you treat them? How would you speak to them? Would you offer them advice? What wisdom would you share with them? Get in the practice of doing this for yourself. Get in the habit of flipping that internal script. Look at yourself from that outside perspective. Take a step back and go, wait a minute. Now, if my best friend, who I love dearly, came to me with these challenges, and would I destroy him? Absolutely not. You'd be there for them. You'd listen for them. You would be there to offer advice or whatever you could to help him through that scenario. We need to get that way with ourselves, guys. And that's going to start with policing our own self-talk. How do we talk to ourselves? How we talk to ourselves matters, guys. And this is the other thing that's important with this, is your mind is always listening. So this makes it not only important to pay attention to how you talk to yourself, but pay attention to how you talk about others, because your mind does not understand that you're talking to somebody else. It thinks you're talking to yourself. So if you're constantly tearing people down, you're constantly ripping people to shreds, you're constantly judging, you're constantly doing all those things, your mind thinks you're talking about yourself. So this makes it very important that we police our speech pretty much in general, guys. It's very, very important, because the mind is always listening. It's always taking in information. It's always just whatever we're telling it, it believes. There's no right or wrong to the subconscious mind. It does not have that filter. It just accepts everything that goes through it as fact. And that's kind of almost a terrifying thing in some sense, but it makes us understand why it's so vigilant to pay attention to not only how we speak to ourselves, but how we speak to and about others, because our minds think you're talking about yourself. If you're always talking about like broken people are, or stupid and judging and all of these things, that's how your mind's going to talk to you guys. So we're filling that inner critic with all this criticism that it's literally just taking that we're trying to give to other people, and it's turning it around and flipping it around, and it's giving it back to ourselves. Okay, guys? So we need to be mindful of this, guys. This is something we need to work on, be vigilant with. I said, one of the best things that you can do, and I do this as much as I can, is try to build everybody around you up. Try to offer as much praise and appreciation and gratitude for every single person around you, especially the people you love. Because the inverse of this is true, guys, too. If you talk about everybody else that way, well, then naturally your internal script is going to start to flip. You're going to start talking to yourself that way because your mind's like, oh, hey, you told that person they're amazing and they're smart and they're intelligent, you're proud of them, and they're all of these things. Your mind thinks you're talking about you. So why in the world wouldn't you? This is one of the easiest ways to start to flip this script, guys, is to start acknowledging and recognizing everything you find awesome about other people and tell them over and over and over. Because not only are you going to make them feel good, you're going to show them that appreciation and give them that good vibe inside of themselves. But again, your mind thinks you're talking about you. It thinks you're talking about you. It doesn't recognize that you're talking to somebody else outside of yourself, okay? So work on this inner voice. Work on this inner critic. Work on, building other people up in a way to subconsciously just kind of build yourself up. It goes both ways, guys. It's a great little trick, a great little hack, and I promise you, the more you do this, the better you're going to start to flip your own internal script, okay? But we need to stop being so hard on ourselves, guys. We need to just learn to love ourselves, be compassionate with ourselves, offer ourselves the kindness and care that we so easily give to others. We just need to work really diligently on finding ways to turn that around and give it to ourselves. And this is something that we were never taught, but I promise you guys, you can start doing this slowly but surely. You're going to start to get there. Just recognize that voice when it starts to come up inside of you. Realize that, oh, hey, this is some old garbage. This is from somebody who probably had no business telling me this stuff to begin with. And now I can start to flip it and say, what do I want to believe about myself? Who am I actually? And the better you get to know yourself, the better it becomes and easier it becomes to start to flip that internal script too, guys, okay? So be mindful of that internal critic. Tell them to just shut up. It's just ego and mind and garbage oftentimes, and most of it has no relevance or bearing to anywhere that you want to go inside of your life, okay? So work on this daily, guys. Get into this practice. The better you get at this, the more peace, the more internal joy and elevated emotions you're going to start to foster within yourself, which is obviously going to lead you down the road to a much better life. Have a great day, guys.